suppose looking back at your Dublin career, your Dublin years, like moral victories are no good because you're a winner by nature, and you've proved that going off playing soccer, playing at the highest level. I suppose, given your past with Cork, was it kind of satisfying to show everyone that your years with Dublin weren't a waste of time, that you proved something, and especially getting that nomination, the All-Star nomination, as you already mentioned, that you could always still deliver at the highest stage, basically.
Yeah, I probably didn't anticipate at the start that it would end up that way, but because of that season in 2015, I made lots of friends, and it became more of a community for me than anything else. And I had, all of a sudden, I had 30 girls in the Dublin setup who I could call on at any time of the day or the night. Having moved from Cork, and I suppose not having the network that I had before, that was kind of the first and most integral thing for me. And then everything else kind of fell out from that. I suppose it really does show that when you're happy playing with your team and happy playing sport, good things happen. You get the bounce of the ball. So that's why we ended up probably having such a fun summer, outside of the fact that we didn't necessarily get to a semi-final of an All-Ireland, but it was still my favourite summer, I would say, 2015.
Very good. So look, I suppose, Sarah, you've always been quite outspoken on social media about camogie and stuff like that, especially if we make a mistake, you're always quick to point it out, which is great, keeps us on our toes. But look, I suppose we'd like to get your thoughts on the game, I suppose, like as a supporter now / commentator, pundit, interested person in general, like what like if someone asked you what your thoughts are on camogie and the state of the game at the moment, what would you say?
When I started out playing camogie, it was 12-a-side, right? So first off,
Angela Downey.
Yeah. You're reeling in the years.
Yeah, well, I was 13 playing seniors, so this is what happens in West Cork clubs.
Angela Downey had 2 All-Ireland medals at that stage.
I didn't have those. I didn't have those, but I was 13. I know that. Down in Ballinspittle, yeah. No, nowhere near Drina now. Nowhere near Drina. Yeah. But I would say that the move to 15-a-side obviously is massive initially, right? That probably changed everything for me as a player at 15, 16, because people obviously started to take our game more seriously, and they didn't have to pull in the goals so that we could puck the ball a shorter distance. The physicality element is the bit that would have stressed me out most over the years. It's not fun being in Croke Park before the disciplinary committee after getting 2 yellows. That's not ideal, and that did happen. And I ended up getting a ban for 4 weeks. Some of those measures are so draconian. Like, why you would haul a player from Cork to Dublin to go before the Croke Park Disciplinary Board for 2 yellow cards in a game is nonsensical.
It drives me bananas. We played championship in Kilkenny at the weekend. I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm so frustrated by it, I don't even care. Like, we played 5 challenge matches in the run up to championship, and we were averaging 321 in games. Like, and the ref just let the game flow away. There was no one hurt, nothing. We played on Sunday, and the ref blew every single touch. Every time someone got touched, he blew it. The game ended up 14-8, and they had a player sent off in a camogie match. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, just let the fucking game flow. Like, you've ruined the game. Like, only in camogie can both teams leave the pitch feeling hard done by the referee. Both teams felt they were ridden by the referee. Like, how does that happen? Like, how does it happen? Just let the game flow. Like, you turned into a free fest. Cat stuff. We went from scoring 321 a game to being lucky to hit 14 points.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. You can't even prepare teams for games because you're having to judge who the referee is and whether it's going to be a free fest or whether you'll have a bit of latitude. There's a referee in Dublin, Gavin Donegan, great fella to do referee, and the game will flow. And then a week later, you'll stumble upon another referee, and you'll unfortunately not get the same latitude. And
didn't catch his name there, Sarah. Was it?
There's a few.
You're dead right. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. And like, I know Liz gets a bit of flack sometimes, like, but she referees our challenge games in Kilkenny, and we have her in the Ashbourne, and she just lets it play away, and you know where you are with her. Ray Kelly the same, and geez, some of them would just drive you bananas. And then, I suppose the counter argument then is you could, like, if you spoke to someone in the Camogie Association, they'd tell us as coaches that we're coaching the game wrong. that it's our fault. Do you know? But like, I don't know.
Well, I would ask, is it the spectator or the player that you want to keep interested? And if you're looking to keep the spectator and the player interested, then you should ask them what it is that they want to do. And I know there's always these votes, and they'll say, "Oh, we voted for skirts, and then they voted for shorts, and then we had a vote, and they still want to wear skirts." And you're saying, "Yeah, but
who are you asking though?
Realistically,
are you asking the 70-year-old at the Ard Corler at the whatever it is at Congress who still remembers wearing the slips, as Angela Downey says, or are you asking the 23 or 24-year-old who's in the gym 4 nights a week?
Yeah.
Do you know, like that's the difference. Like you're dead right. It's who are they asking? You know, it's the same with these decisions they've made on the intermediate finals, on the minor championships. Like who are they asking? Are they asking the 17-year-old in Cork and Kilkenny, or are they asking the 65-year-old from Tyrone or Armagh who wants their minor players available because they don't have a county team otherwise? Like, so who's actually dictating the agenda here? What's going on? It's highly frustrating. Like, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Sarah. It's like, who are they actually asking when they say they're asking these questions? So,
and it's not that things can't change. Yeah, sorry, David, jump in there.
No, but that's just a massive point in terms of the whole association, from top to bottom, between Croke Park all the way down to your local or your county board, then your local clubs. It's who's playing the game is the players, and who's watching the game is the supporters. Them two are the most two important aspects. The players is the most important aspect, but then the supporters are next.
Yeah.
And if there's no spectacle on the field, you're just not attracting anyone to the game. And it's from right to the top of the very top of the GA all the way down.
You lose everyone. I have no interest in being involved. Like, we'll see how it goes over the next few weeks, but I have no interest in going down to Kilkenny again next year if the championship games are just going to be like that. Like, what's the point? We stick to the Ashburn where you're allowed to play, and that's it.
And go from there.
And go from there. Like, it's just like it turn you off it, like, to be honest.
Well, I'm training the under-16s this at the minute with Vincents. It'll probably come up, but we are in a situation now where our under-16s have to go senior, because at 16 you go to adult, and then you're divided across kind of 4 teams that are based on your level of skill, and I completely disagree with that. So the ladies football side is thriving, and those players will get to play minor together, and because it's been done this way always, there has been no budge at our top table in the camogie setup in Vincents, and they are refusing to allow us to have a minor team that will be a minor team, and that they won't go up to adult. You know, like,
there is a minor championship in Dublin. There is an under 18.
It's a poor championship, and I appreciate it's a plug-in at the end of the year. But I think for the group of players that's there, I think I would rather train them for the 2 years and not have them, you know, dissipate and disintegrate. I would want them, like, what they do is they bring them all back together from their 4 individual adult teams, and then allow them to play this minor championship as a kind of a goodbye to your minor career. But that's only
minor is so important in camogie. Like, I say in minor, it's the same as under 21 for lads. Is that, like, it's that step, like, so I can't understand it here in Limerick, like, much like that now, Sarah, the county team are playing B at minor, and then they expect these players to be able to step into the senior team in the next couple of years. But, like, so it's like that. It's such an important age group. I'm surprised in Vincents because, like, they strike me as a progressive club. They're obviously very successful at senior level. It's like, it seems like there is a hole in the development plan there. You know, like, you need that step. Okay, you'll have your very talented 16-year-old that will go straight into a senior B or A team and develop from there. But what about the slightly slower developer who maybe goes in playing D and maybe doesn't like it and is playing with women instead of her friends, and next thing she's gone, you know?
Well, like, I suppose Vincents have been very shrewd in the recruitment over the last kind of 8-10 years. And at senior level, we would have had probably 10 players recruited in from outside of the Vincents team. They would have gone into integral positions. So Emma Brennan from Carlow would have played centre-back. Gráinne Quinn, who's come across from Bridges, is now playing centre-back. Marion Kelleher from Clare is playing midfield. Obviously, Emer Dillon, Aoife Ryan, Suzanne Lynch from Ballygarvan would have played midfield. Anna Geary would have come in to play centre-back. Like, over the years, they've always been able to plug in players to facilitate the talent that's already there. but at a certain point that's going to dry up. So you need to protect your players that are coming through, and there are some really talented players coming through, but they've no encouragement to go at 16 to play adult level if they're not being coached properly. I don't like. I'm with them now 2 years. This is my second year with them. I know they're not ready to play adult. Neither would I want them coming up against the likes of me, an adult, who doesn't have time,
Yeah. No, that's it. It's interesting. Like, it's very interesting. There's probably a bigger picture here as well, in that for years, a lot of the Dublin footballers' lack of success was put down to the fact that too many outsiders were playing in key positions in Dublin. Like, the best centre-back, midfielder, centre-forward in nearly all the top club teams were blowing. So, like, McGeaney and these boys. And, like, it meant that these players weren't there to step into the county team. And, look, that could become an issue in time as well if the county board let clubs away with not playing minor and having so many outside players that, the bigger picture is who's actually going to filter into the county team, and what's the general direction of it, I suppose.
I agree on that front. And looking at the players now, there's from the current under 16 crop, there's a one player, and she's absolutely outrageous, and you will know her in a few years' time. Her name is Ava Lamb, and she is sensational. And Pat Gilroy's daughter Grace is obviously involved with the senior camogie team as well. But these girls are equally gifted at football and love their football. And it's important that they should be allowed to play both football and camogie, as I did, as Rena Buckley did, as Breach Corkery did, and it shouldn't be seen as a negative. But if they're constantly hearing a commentary in the media that the Camogie Association and the Ladies Football Association aren't communicating, that starts to create an awareness that something isn't right and that there's a problem. And that shouldn't be the case for these players. They should be able to play. They should be able to play two codes and do it comfortably. Right now, the way the games are scheduled, camogie is Saturday and football Sunday. And that's 18 hours apart for matches, and these are 16, 17-year-old girls who are having to contend with that. That's another really frustrating thing for me right now in the Dublin setup.
Yeah, I just when you're on that point, like, that was one of the questions that we got asked, was the dual player, how can we protect them more? And I think, again, it's starting from even not the age group, we're starting from the county boards. I think that's what you're basically saying, that the county board need to be setting a precedence and helping the dual player, especially at that age.
Yeah, because I would always say to my players, and I would be very conscious of the negativity that was involved with football versus camogie. So in Vincents in previous years, they didn't have football. They didn't have that competition. And the football team was set up to accommodate the likes of Grace and Ava, who deserve to play football within Vincents and not have to go outside the club to play their football, right? Niamh Heatherton plays her football with Clontarf. Now, Niamh is one of St. Vincent's biggest camogie players. Vincents would die to have Niamh playing adult football with them in a couple of years when they eventually get up to that level. But that's another reason that Vincents will struggle to fill teams in a couple of years' time because of that level of competition. So it is really important that the football and the camogie find a way to work together. Now, is that football is always played during the week and that camogie is played at the weekend to allow players the time to recover properly, and that it's recognised that football is midweek or vice versa. But you have to have conversations about this so that the players don't end up playing 18 hours apart at the weekend. If I sent you the schedule for the next month and a half, you'd start laughing, saying, how do they have 5 days off and then they're playing 18 hours apart 5 weekends in a row?
Yeah, but the bigger picture is even within camogie. Like, we've spoken about it here. Like, we had players involved with Galtier and Sarsfields in UL, and like the Galtier players within the space of about 4 weeks played 2 Ashbourne games over the weekend. Following week they were out with Waterford, and then a week later they played club final with Galtier, and then had a break for 2.5 months. But obviously, break for 6 months with COVID, but they were due a break for 2.5 months where there was no meaningful games at all. So it's just, look, the development plan was released this week, and part of it is an overall view of the fixture calendar. But have they the skill set, the nous to get all the different moving parts of the different county boards and associations moving together in the same direction and do it? Remains to be seen. It's grand to put it down as a KPI on paper, but it's how you implement it and whether you actually execute it or not is probably the key thing, isn't it?
Well, I think another part of that is that football is so, your level of fitness that you gain playing football can be an advantage when you play camogie, and then the things that you can work on in camogie, knowing that you've banked that, 3 set football sessions in the week, is that you can look at the big key things: aerial possession, striking, your sidestep, all of the things that allow you to play camogie within the rules. These are things that don't necessarily don't get done in a very effective way, because we also try to lash in a load of running because the girls have to be fit. You have to look at workload, and if the girls are playing football, then you have to contend that they're doing enough fitness and that we can concentrate on the skills to actually bring camogie players forward.
My personal view now on that would be the only time they need to see the football is when the ref throws it in. Like, they should be hurling 13 nights out of the 14, and if you recognise the football, that's fine once you know what to do with it. I always say, a good hurling team could compete in football, but a good football team can get blown away in a hurling match. That's what I'd say. So, but look, that's.
I'm just trying to what I'm trying to do is accommodate those kids. Well, no, I'm not being diplomatic, but I genuinely see the joy that the girls get playing football. There's a real, they genuinely do love playing football, because
and at that age, that's what it should be all about. Are they enjoying it or not? Yes or no? And if they are enjoying it, well, then you have to be able to accommodate them, isn't that it?
Yes, yeah, so, and their skills, the skill set is different, and actually we have players across the squad. Some are better at football, some are better at camogie, and there's a level of confidence in knowing that you're good at something, and those players have a bigger kick because they have a more of a standing in the team because they're better at football. So that's important too.
No, look, for just from the way you're talking, it's obvious that you're passionate about what you're doing with Vincents, and look, I know you're highlighting some issues and stuff like that, but I think that's the way we all are, aren't we? We're the most critical of the things we're most passionate about at times as well, I suppose. Look, you're a journalist as well, so look, as I know club is important to you, but do you think the Camogie Association missed a trick by not having the county games on in the summer, or was going club first the right way to go? As someone who's kind of can see it from both sides of the fence, what are your thoughts on it?
Right now, based on the level of action on the club pitches around Vincents, in Clontarf, in Raheny, in Coola, girls struggle every year, and you'll know this. They go on the J1, they take time out of college, they want to go travelling, they want to do all of these things. This was the first year where nobody could go anywhere, so coaches in Dublin and outside of Dublin, in West Cork and otherwise, had a full complement of players who weren't going to give them the excuse that they A, had college exams, or B, were going on holidays. And if you can't manage to motivate a group of players who have nowhere to go and no stress in their lives, then maybe you're in the wrong job, right? So I think, while I appreciate the Camogie Association could have done with the positive opportunity, there's a retention opportunity there for players that would have moved away from club altogether. And for the bigger picture, I'm looking at the most amount of players playing camogie and the most amount of players enjoying it, and the fact that no one could go anywhere meant that you're probably going to see the most competitive games this year in a long time at club.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, and I would have been very, very vocal about this before club. I suppose in Kilkenny at the weekend, there were some shock results, and it's you can clearly see every club has everyone available to them. Every club is it's going to be very, very competitive. No, after the refereeing this performance, I didn't necessarily agree, but I suppose from a coaching point of view, for me, since we've got into the swing of it, and the same with the lads in Offaly at the hurling, is the fact that we know exactly when we're playing. We're not looking out the door to wonder, are the county boys coming tonight, or the county girls. I know if we win the championship in Kilkenny, it's finished on the 13th of September, and that's it. If we win in Offaly, it's finished on the 6th of September, and that's it. And it's great. You can plan everything, and it's done. I think that's unbelievable. I think that they need to bring that. However they manage to fit that into the season, that needs to be the way a club operates from now on. I think we've seen the future for club, that needs to be the way it goes. But at the same time, I suppose Kilmallock are on television on Saturday night for the second time in a fortnight on RTE, and it does grate me a little bit that what we spoke about last week was the likes of Beth Carton, Eve Mulcahy, you know, Chloe Moore, you know, all these guys, like nobody knows who they are and they've never been on the telly, and these club players are getting the opportunity that they could have got, and it does rankle with me a little bit.
I don't know if they would have been given the opportunity regardless of if they would have been playing.
Yeah.
So my other point to that is I opened the Examiner on Monday morning. It was a 19-page sports spread. All of the games were covered. And then there was one solitary picture of SARS and the Glen included in that whole 19-page spread. I counted it because I was going 1, 2, no girls, and then came to maybe the third from the back page, and it literally gave a commentary about who was in the picture, and then the Glen won it. The Glen beat SARS and gave,
which was a huge result for them, like, as well.
Absolutely. And but that one photograph out of 19 pages of men's sport, and there was actually no other women's sport included. You know,
if somebody had beaten Glen in the hurling, like I was laughing with Davey there, like, Joe, our lads are complete underdogs, like in Offaly in the hurling. We're ranked number 8 out of 8, like, Joe, in people's eyes, not in our own eyes. But like, we drew with Shinrone on Friday, and it got a full page of an opinion piece in the paper, wondering like, Joe, is this our Bandamere coming? Like, is this the revolution? A full page, like we won 5 in a row in the Ashburn in February, and I'd say, did we get fucking, Joe,
a sliver of interest?
The imbalance is absolutely bananas. It's absolutely bananas. And the funny thing, we've invited Declan on from RT, the head of sport in RT, and he said he would, and then he hasn't come back to us. So you're right, maybe they wouldn't have covered it. You know, but because like, I don't know if I'm supposed to know this or not, but like the Camogie Association paid a Sunday game for that slot. Like, it's not the Sunday game covering it out of their willingness to cover Camogie. The Camogie Association paid them for the slot, the same way as if you want a product listed in Tesco, you pay Tesco for the shelf space. The Camogie Association paid Sunday game for the shelf space.
Well, technically, probably Liberty Insurance pay it so that they can run their advertising. So that makes sense. That's not a surprise to me.
But it just shows that there's no willingness there, like, you know, like, and again, the development plan talks about commercial nous and, you know, trying to change the image and, you know, capitalising on commercial opportunities. But on the one hand, you have TG Carr paying the Ladies Football Association for the rights to show their games, and on the other hand, you have the Camogie Association paying RT to show theirs. So, like, you're talking about a serious shift in commercial nous here, or commercial acumen, to actually make that happen. So, do they have the capability and the skill set to do it? Well, they can come on and talk to us about it. We've invited them. So,
I suppose the only way that it becomes interesting to people is if you're willing to speak and to have a voice. And I suppose I would have found that with Dublin, the opportunities that I was being given weren't being given by the Camogie Association per se. In 2016, they brought me in as an ambassador for the year after 2015, actually. And it was great to be asked and to be involved in that setup. But certainly the stuff with AIG was completely separate from the Camogie Association. And I would work, you know, on News Talk, and I would have gone in to do a piece with Ivan Yates before the All-Ireland in 2019 maybe. Took quite a grilling, but, you know, the Camogie Association had asked me to go in, but they didn't provide me with any useful information. You know, it's a case of, will you go in and do that for us? But you'll do your own research, you know? So it seems they're so unhelpful to themselves, because we're constantly being given a forum to speak, and lots of the stuff that I would do on News Talk would involve me talking about Camogie. The Camogie Association don't retweet it. They don't, you know, promote it.
They don't retweet us either, Sarah. It's okay. Don't take it personally.
No.
But in fairness, we have invited them on, and look, like, you know, we have had correspondence with them, and I think they want to have a chat with us before they sit down with us. And
before they muzzle you, or how's that going to work?
Well, look, they won't muzzle us, because look, our agenda, like, we're doing this because we want a better platform for Camogie players. Sure. That's it. There's no two ways about it. Like, you know, I've been involved. Davey was probably sick of listening to me talking about all these players and wondering who the hell they were. And they said, look, let's give them the platform for it. That's what our agenda is. It's not to knock the Camogie Association. It's not to be constantly sniping at them, not to be constantly cutting at them. But, like, they need to come out and explain decisions and explain strategies and explain what they're doing and be more open about it, and just communicate with people and just go, look, we made this decision. Like, the intermediate final, the explanation that Kathleen gave on RTE was so confusing that I wasn't even sure what the explanation was. Like, they said that they were, like, I still can't get my head around it. But like, that's a crazy decision. And like, we put it out the poll, and like 80% of people thought it was bananas. So again, who are they talking to? Just let us know who's making decisions. Why are you making decisions? You know, at the end of the day, they're answerable to the players, to the volunteers, to the coaches, to everybody. They're not a commercial operation that they can say, this is what we're doing, we've made a decision, and the rest of you go fucking scatter. They're based on volunteers, and they should be letting the key people know, the key stakeholders know exactly what's going on. And look, we will have them on, and look, Sinead's a great speaker, and she's been speaking on things lately, and you know, she's a polished CEO and everything like that. And all we want to do is just have a conversation with them and say, look, we're not going to ambush them or anything like that, but we won't be muzzled either. We're not going to cozy up to them for tickets to matches or trips to All-Stars or whatever. We'll do what we're doing because we're trying to force change. But it can be frustrating at times, and we will go to the All-Stars if they invite us, obviously.
I'll bring you to the All-Stars, but the crap.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, we'll say nothing, and we'll buy a table at 10, and then we'll. We've done this too publicly now. I won't be left. Yeah. I'll have to get somebody else to buy the ticket.
Me, Davey, Neil Finn, yourself, David Herty, Cody. We're only short 4. We're only short 4.
We'll bring John Caulfield in as well. He hasn't had a good run with Bourke City either.
So, sure, look, you'd have to laugh at it sometimes, otherwise you'd be crying. But look, we're nearly there. We do have a few questions for you. We had a lot more to ask you, but we're running way over time. So look, we got a few questions from Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. So Dave, if you want to fire away at the first few there.
Just before you went to that, just the result the weekend, Glenn's beating Stars. I wanted to post it all over our social media channels because the podcast we did on the prediction, Adrian said that Stars is going to win the championship. I just wanted to
don't get me started. I made some bananas prediction. Like what one? I thought
Would
I was
you just ring me beforehand? God.
Yeah, I was full sure True Clonlara were mowing well, and they got battered. Oh my god, it was like 16 points or something. We predicted a draw.
But these are things that I wanted to put on the social media, but Adrian changed the password and knocked me out. So that's why that's not gone up. But
the password is Cork City 1 is the password.
But we get back to Sarah before we get killed altogether. Just in terms of gym work when you were at the peak of your career, Katie Mannion wanted to know what was the gym sessions like, and how did that evolve over between Cork at the early start of your career and to Dublin later on?
Sure. With Cork at the start, we wouldn't have been doing gym sessions, right? It was all field-based. This would have been now, 17, 18, 19. Then, obviously, when I went in with Cork City, we started to do gym sessions. We were working out of Bishopstown. This was kind of at the height of my soccer involvement with the Women's National League. That was kind of 2 nights a week, which were heavy leg based, I would have said, and maybe 1 session upper body a week. That was a hard thing to kind of get to do during a week when you're kind of going to Sunday to play in a National League game up in Castlebar or Dublin or Galway. So we would have said 3 days a week, and then you might have had 2 pitch sessions. So that was, I suppose at that point we were kind of doing nearly 6 nights, 3 weights, 2 pitch, one match. When we went in with Dublin then in 2015, the big impetus was on getting us strong, and we actually had a really good lead in. So we had November 2014 right through to, I suppose, March 2015, and we did a solid 4 months of pre-season. And the way the championship ran after that, we were able to do that for the following 3 seasons. So for Katie, I suppose the answer was you do your pre-season in pre-season, and you don't do your weights in the summer. And that would have been very well managed by the Dublin strength and conditioning team. John Matthews was a big, I suppose, big proponent of that for us. Billy McMahon came in actually in 2019 with the girls.
Controversially enough.
Yeah, and the same process was involved, but I suppose Dublin weren't lacking in putting forward the finance for that, and that's been something which they have to be commended for. That's a lot of money, to put towards strength and conditioning. Now, I appreciate the WGPA came in, and obviously there's a grant for that now, and the money was put towards that, but I noticed, and the girls are very, very chatty about it at the minute, that they haven't done the pre-season the way that they had done in the previous years. The girls are really feeling it now. They're much sore than they were. over the last couple of weeks with the matches they're playing.
Yeah, it's very interesting the way it's evolved, and the way it's evolved differently in different counties. Like what opened my eyes was last year, so 2019, the National League was on the Sunday and the Ashbourne was on the following Saturday, just the way the calendar worked out. So we had a recovery session for the girls that had played county on the Sunday down in the S&C suite down in our campus, and like walked in and Niamh Hannafy and Leanne Freeney were inside knocking out like a full upper body session, so pull-ups, everything, having played county the day before and playing a big game on the Saturday. And it's just like, that's got, like, they're gone to another level. Like, I know Galway's S&C coach's class, Robbie Lane, like that's where they're gone to. Whereas I think, maybe players from other counties were kind of looking at them going, geez, what are these doing? But like, that's what separates them, I suppose, from this. Like, it would have been unheard of, like, to knock out a gym session for a camogie player on a Monday after playing on a Sunday and with another game coming down the track. So like, it's really gone to a different level. That might surprise people. Another one for you, Tess Mullen wants to know if you had to give one piece of advice to younger players to help them make it at the top level, what would it be?
The work you'll do on your own is the work that will actually put you ahead. So when I was a kid, my dad was a goalkeeper, and so dad could strike the ball literally the length of the field. So I could never strike the ball far enough. So he was never impressed. So that was always my kind of motivation, was trying to drive it farther and farther. And look, Dad, I remember being 10 and Dad saying, listen, the match would be much more enjoyable for me if you could just learn to pick up the ball. So I then decided that if my dad was going to enjoy my matches, then I had to progress pretty quick, So then the catching would have been the big thing.
You just didn't trust you, Sarah. Just didn't trust you.
I think he gave me that early motivation. But we used to play a lot of rounders in school, and I went to a mixed school, and it was all, obviously the rounders was really competitive, but it was all catching. So those striking and catching were the things that I was doing on my own away from the pitch. And then as soon as I came to the pitch, I realised that none of the other girls were doing these things, because they weren't playing hurling with the lads, they weren't playing soccer with the lads, and they obviously clearly weren't playing rounders. And those were the two things that set me apart from the girls who were my age. And they were the things that I was doing on my own. You don't progress when you're at training, per se,
Yeah, great advice there. And I suppose finally, Rory Farrell was on Instagram, and he wanted to know who was the toughest player that he played against.
That's a good question.
Don't say someone from Cork now.
I won't. My biggest battles would have been against goalkeepers, I suppose, realistically, over the years. Mags Darcy has split my knee on more than one occasion. And getting a goal against Mags or getting a goal against Jovita Delaney, they were two. I got one goal against Jovita up in Thurles, and I got another goal against Mags in Ballinlough. And the greatest satisfaction I had was putting those, and they were two top corners. They weren't low balls. They were proper belters. And it was always the goalies for me. Obviously, Aoife Murray is a ridiculously good keeper, and coming up against Aoife in the Cork Championship was always enjoyable, but only if I was scoring goals. So that's kind of the key point there.
Excellent.
Yeah, we had a question in about who your toughest goalie you played against was as well, but I think it might have been from a goalie. So we just
well, there's three there now. Yeah.
So, yeah. The very, 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 very last thing: if you were the camogie CEO for one day and you could make 3 changes that would have to stay in the rule book forevermore, what would they be?
Wow. So I would make it men's hurling rules. Straight up, no messing. Yeah, that's probably to keep myself on the pitch more than anyone else. Second thing would be, I wouldn't allow you to drop the hurley when you hand pass the ball.
We were going to call the podcast "Drop the Hurl." Anyways, yeah.
And
you're 2 for 2 here, no worries.
I'm 2 for 2, and then I suppose. Once you make it men's rules, you're clean and clear.
You're nothing.
Yeah. That and dropping the hurley is the other one. I was queen of the hand pass goal, and despite the fact that it no longer exists, I'm glad. Like, I know it probably would have brought down my average quite significantly, but it needed to go.
Yeah, it does need to go. We were practicing the hand pass goal and training the other night, and the goalie was getting thick to the point where
why are you practicing it?
because the new rules aren't in clubshire. The new rules have never been ratified by anyone. They're just hanging there. They were only there for the National League.
Oh, sure. I'm after telling my under-16s they're not allowed to pass.
No. Yeah, you're still allowed to do everything. Yeah, still go rules.
Oh my God.
So if you're watching St. Vincents under 16s, there's coaches available out there. But it got to the point where the keeper was getting so pissed off that it got dangerous because she was just trying to take players out. So it's just like, we stopped practicing it. So hopefully they'll be able to do it when it comes to it. But look, Sarah, we've gone way over time. I think we'll have to get you back on again. I think we've only maybe scratched the surface here of what we could talk about. We could really appreciate your time, and look, we'll definitely get you on again for a championship, for a chat. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Sarah.
Really appreciate that, lads. Thanks so much. Good luck.
Cheers.